Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Sermon Jill Spirits Around. We give you a word on tonight. We still doing Bible study. First, we're going to talk about the sun staying still. You know, they're going to come from Joshua chapter 10, 1 through 15. So, you're going to have 5 kings of Jerusalem. Heard that Joshua had taken Ai and totally destroyed, doing to Ai and his king. You know, because, see, word gets around. Word gets around. You know, because Israelite, you know, they're defeating. You know, they know Joshua and the Israelites defeating everyone. And they know God is right there. They know they have their own God that's right there fighting for them. You know, so they heard how Joshua and the Israelite had killed Ai. You know, so now these people is plotting. You know, so all the while, so they're plotting to come to attack Gilon. You know, so they don't want Joshua and the Israelites. They want Gilon because they're trying to figure out how great king that he are living under Joshua and the Israelites. You know, so they heard that he made a treaty of peace with Israel and Joshua, and had become their allies. So now these people were along to hear that get along, you know, with Joshua and the Israelite, and when he is important city his own self. You know, he got a big city his own self. That his city, they say his city is larger than Ai. But you remember, he came by Joshua and deceived them. You know, they didn't know he had this big old land. You know, they didn't know he was in charge of everything. You know, he lied. He came there to deceive Joshua, and it worked it. You know, so now you know you have 5 kings. So now you got 5 kings. They come together, you know, to in battle with Gelon. You know, and they just don't know Gelon is under Joshua and the Israelites. So you're not gonna come there and just fight him. You got the whole Israelite and Joshua you got to deal with. You know, so they come to conspire and to destroy Gelon. You know, so the king ordered to attack Gelon, who made a peace treaty with Joshua and the Israelite. Now he would need to help. He would have to have help. Not only he would attack Gelon, but he had to come against Joshua and the whole Israelite crew. You know, so he best to know what he doing when he trying to come against Gelon, who is on the property of Joshua and the Israelite. You know, so the 5 kings of the Ammonites, they joined forces, you know, and then move up, you know, with all their troops, you know, and they took up position against Gelon to attack him. You know, so they want to attack him, and they already know he made a treaty with Joshua. So the Canaanites, they send a word to Joshua. Now remember, Joshua just found out that this man deceived him. You know, so now he calling for help, and he wants Joshua to help him. You know, so he sent a word to Joshua. You know, in the camp. You know, to Gelon cried out to Joshua for help, saying, "Do not abandon your servants." Now he don't want Joshua to abandon his servant, but you just deceived Joshua. You know, so come up quickly to save us. We being attacked by these kings. You know, we being attacked and we need help. You know, because all the Ammonites kings, you know, from the hill country had joined forces against us. You know, so you see that's what I'm saying. It goes around. You know, you come there to deceive Joshua and the Israelite, but then you got to call out to Joshua to come save you. You know, so now Joshua just found out that Gelon had deceived him. You know, he best to pray that Joshua come and help him and save him. You know, so Gelon cried out, you know, to Joshua for help. Joshua is a good man. Joshua is a good man because Joshua had marched up from Gelon with his entire army. You know, so he ain't took too much long. You know, to go try to rescue him. But the Israelite, they may hesitate. You know, the entire army. He took the entire army, including all the best fighting men. Now he doing all this to save this man here. So now our God, who is mighty in battle, God is mighty in battle. You know, the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid. You know, do not be afraid of them. You know, I have given them into your hands." You see, God gonna always go ahead of us in our battle, and God is mighty in battle. You know, so He telling Joshua, "Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. You know, I have given them into your hand." And now God said, not one of them gonna withstand against you. Not one of them will be able to withstand against you. You know, so if God telling you and nobody is gonna be able to stand against you, you know, that you will be defeated, you will not be defeated, you know, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You know, because Jesus' five kings got a whole army too. You know, so he a little scared because, you know, he got defeated one time. But then the second time, you know, they won in battle because you had mighty God in battle with them the second time. So now God telling them, "Nah, you know, I'm a deliver them into your hands. You know, so don't be afraid." You know, so Joshua respond quickly. He respond quickly. You know, he showed what kind of a leader he are. You know, he showed what kind of leader he are. He been deceived. You know, but he still, as a leader, you know, he going to rescue someone. You know, he a kind-hearted, you know, loving and compassionate person. So after having have been deceived, you know, by the Canaanites, you know, Joshua and a leader, you know, could attempt to rescue him. They could have not rescued him, you know, but by he's a good person, a good leader. You know, he put all that deceit and all that negative stuff on the side, you know, and he went to go try to rescue that man. You know. So at the moment, Joshua wasn't thinking about that. You know, so Joshua and the leader, you know, he talking about to the elders. Remember, he got some elders he made leaders, you know, to help him out. You know, so instead, they immediately respond to their call for help. That's a man that walking with God. You know, so how willing, you know, will you be to help someone who deceived you? And even though you have forgiven them, you know, will you still help someone? You know, that's the question. That's the main godly question. If someone deceived you, but then you forgive them, you know, and but then they ask for your help, will you still, you know, go for their help? Now we see that Joshua did. We see that Joshua had found out the man that he deceived him, you know, and then Joshua forgive him. You know, Joshua, you know, he gave him a position in the woodcutter, you know, carrying the water. You know, he couldn't get out that easy, you know, but would we be in Joshua's shoes, you know, to take on something that had you know, Jesus did. You know, Jesus had forgive Peter. You know, Judah, he killed himself, but then Peter, Jesus had forgive him. You know, he denied Jesus 3 times. You know, and Jesus still forgive him. You know, so we walking with God. You know, sometimes it might be hard. You know, it might be hard sometimes, but when we walking with God, you know, someone can really do us so wrong. You know, really do us so wrong. We can forgive them. But then another test gonna come along, when that person call you for help. You know, even though you forgive them, you know, then you'll see how your forgiveness in your heart. When that same person deceive you or mess over you, gonna call you for help. Will you move quickly like Joshua did to save that person? You know, so we see that Joshua is a man that walking with God. He did the right thing. You know, they marched all night long from Galilee. Joshua took them by surprise. You know, the Lord threw them into confusion. You know, before Israel. Remember, God said, "I'm gonna go ahead of you. I'm gonna deliver your enemies to you." You know, so Israel. You know, so Israel and Joshua and the Israelite, you know, defeated them completely. You know, at Galilee. They completed. But now we see that God's word has stand. You know, God's word has stand. Remember, He said, "I'm going to deliver them to you." So He said, no one will be able to withstand you due to God's word. Joshua and the Israelites defeated them all. So we know God's word will stand. Because He said, "I'm going to deliver them to you," and God did just that. God said no one will be able to stand up against you, and we see that just that. So they did defeated, the Ammonites. So that's not all of them. They ain't brought all that. So when they do war, they don't bring all their men with them. They don't want all of them to die at one time. So the Israel came to the edge of the Gadanites. The Israelite attacked the enemy army outside of Galilee and chased them through the valley of the El Jordan. So they chased them because they ain't brought all the army with them. So they still in a fighting mood. So Israel was not done. They was not done. They started pursuing them along the road, going up to Bethlehem. So they cut down all the way to Azal. And as they flee before Israel, as they flee from Israel, on the road down from them, so they think they had got away. They think they got away. They flee from the Israelites. They thought that was it. They don't realize you fighting the Israelites. You got to fight the mighty God along with you. So the Israel, but they forgot about Israel God. The Lord shall hailstone down on them, and more of them died from the hail and where they was killed by the sword of the Israelites. So you got God ahead of them. So they call themselves running back to their city. Running back to where they come from. And then realize the Israelite had God right there. Ahead of them. So God put that hailstone on them and killed a whole lot of them. So the day that God gives the Ammonites over to Israel, Joshua spoke out to God in the presence of all the Israelites. So Joshua spoke to God. Okay, so these the words that Joshua had spoke to God about. And he spoke to God. He yelled out to God right in front of the Israelites. He said, the sun still. He said, the sun stands still over Galilee. And you moon over the valley of El Jordan. So Joshua telling God, the sun, make the sun to stand still. And make the sun stand still over Galilee. And the moon stop. The moon stop until the nation of Israel itself on its enemy. So they give Joshua more time to keep on attacking their enemy. So he asked God to have that sun to stand still. So as it is written in the book of Jeremiah, the sun has stopped it, in the middle of the sky. Now that'll be something amazing. If you look up in the middle of the sky and you got the sun has stopped in the middle of the sky, and delay going down about a full day. So you look up at the sky and you see the sun stop. And then you see it in the middle of the sky. It delay going to a full day. So Joshua wanted the sun to stop, until they complete destroying the Ammonites. Them 5 kings. The 5 kings is the one that sent the army against them. So Joshua wanted to completely destroy them, and they wanted to see, so he had God to stop the sun, to have the sun to stand still, to give Joshua some more time before it get dark, to keep on fighting, so he delayed going down into for a full day. So that's amazing to see. That was God's power and miracle, to have the sun to stop in the middle of the sky. So the book of Jacob, It's a collection of Hebrew literature, that record the military of the nation of Israel. Now, this group of writing had tell the story of Israel's national hero and some of the high points of their history. You know, and Jacob is the one who wrote this book here. Jacob already knew this was gonna happen. Just like yesterday when I had put out um in Genesis in Noah's time. He predict that was gonna happen in the package I put out yesterday. So in the early time of the Old Testament, every event happened. God had them to write it down. So we certainly can't explain of the sun and the moon standing still, but we know we serve a God, who is above and who is beyond the rules of the physical universe. So we serve a God that God, all God got to do is speak some words. Sun, stand still. You know, and the sun stopped. And when the sun stopped, it stopped in the middle of the sky. So the God who spoke all things into existence, the one who raised Christ from the dead, will have no trouble in accomplish this miracle with a single word. He created this world and just spoke words. Give me light. Give me darkness. You know, so God spoke words, and that's why a lot of time, evenness. All they gotta do is speak words. That's why we have to constantly pray, and we got to constantly speak positive things over our life to fight off a lot of negative stuff. Cause people can speak words over your life, but you got to speak positive words over your life to fight all that negative stuff. Because when God created the world, He created the world by spoken words. So God created this world by speaking words. So let there be light, and it appear. With words, the sun stand still over Galilee, and it was done. So God power and miracle. You know, that He had never had been a day like this before. Since a day when the Lord had listened, to a human being. Surely the Lord was fighting for Israel. He was fighting for Israel. And and they said it was the first time. He listened to a human being to tell him about the sun. Keep the sun to stand still. Giving Joshua time enough to keep on fighting Amalek. You see, Joshua needed to see. He needed to see to defeat his enemy. So now the sun has stand still, and the day was prolonged. Not that God used a particular method to prolong it, but slowly, or the earth normally rotate, give Joshua more time. So too, some unusual refraction of the sun rays give additional hour of the light. Because we have the half of the day is light. At a certain time it get dark. So Joshua needed more time to see, to fight his enemy. So regardless of God's chosen method, the Bible is clear, that the day was prolonged by a miracle and that God interfered. He turned to the tide of battle for his people. So God interfered. God is mighty in battle. Just like the other day when God stepped in, they lost a fight one day, but the next day they had God interfere. When God had came up with a plan, see Joshua when he did on his own, he had no plan, no backup plan, no nothing. He had nothing laid out. He just sent the people out there and they got defeated. But the next day when God interfered, God had a plan all mapped out. I need y'all. I need some men to go behind the city. I need some to go left, right. And when they come out, then y'all march in, burn everything up. God had a plan. He had everything mapped out. When Joshua did it on his own, see, that's why God said, don't do nothing on your own understanding. You will fail. And that's how Joshua did. He did stuff on his own understanding. He ain't had no plan, nothing mapped out. He just sent the men out there and they got defeated. So then Joshua returned with all the Israelites to camp together. So we see that Joshua and the Israelites had came together, rescue him even though he had deceived them. So and also God interfered and they defeated them. God said that no one would be able to stand up against Joshua, and he meant that. No one could able to stand against Joshua. And so Joshua called out to God. Call out to God for the sun to stand still over Galilee. So God listened. God listened to a human being and stop the sun. So God miracle prolonged the time for Joshua, and God can speak words and make things happen. He created this whole world. That's why we have to take it serious. A lot of people say words don't hurt. Yes, they do. Words can sabotage your whole life. So we have to take words serious. You have to really pray, and you have to speak positive over your life. And I wrote a list down, and I speak those words on my list every morning. We got to speak over our own life. Don't be so quick to keep telling everybody to pray for you, because everybody's not gonna pray positive or anything good on your life. So you have to be careful on that. So we talk about this sun has stand still. We talk about 5 kings. They wanted to attack Galilee, but then they already knew he owned a property with Joshua and the Israelites, made a treaty agreement with them. So not only they had to fight him, they had to fight Joshua and the whole Israelite crew. So in the mix, they had so many armies. They defeat the first group. Then here they come in with some more. So that's what Joshua called out to God. God, he did in the presence of all the Israelites. He said, God, please, he said, please let the sun stand still. Let the sun stand still. See, Joshua needed more time, defeat the enemy. Because see, he had to defeat all of them. Because that's why God said you got to drive out everyone in the land. Because if you just leave one, because he already told them, do not make a treaty with nobody. They did it anyway. So now they're fighting a battle that's not even their battle. So by they made a treaty with this man here, so now they're fighting a battle that's not even theirs. You got to save someone. So that's why God said, you leave someone in there, it gonna cause you to be corrupted. You're gonna be fighting battles that's not your battle. So God said, you have to get rid of everyone that's in that land. You can't leave no one, because they all serving other gods and worshiping this and worshiping that, and they're gonna corrupt the Israelite. That's why he don't want to leave no one behind. So that's the story on the sun stands still. I also have a story of the Ammonites, the 5 kings. The 5 Ammonites king was killed. That was the first. Remember the 5 kings. They're the one that had plotted and conspired to attack Galilee. So they're the one started all this drama. So now after everything was over, the 5 kings, the one who plotted against Galilee to attack him, but the 5 kings had fled. So Joshua thought they got everyone. Remember, they had to keep on fighting. That's why he had God to stop the sun. Because they brought all their men lay at a time. So then the 5 kings was not attacked. When they saw that their people was getting defeated, they hurried up and ran. So they had flee, and they was hidden in a cage. Hidden in a cage. They started the battle, and then they ran. And they saw how their armor was being defeated, so they went and hid themselves. So now Joshua heard that the 5 kings are still alive, that they had been found, that was hiding in a cage. So Joshua said, roll that large rock up into the mouth of the cave and post some men or the guards to stay right there. So now God found, now Joshua had found out, they're hiding in the cave. You got 5 kings hiding in the cave because they found out, they're seeing how their men was getting defeated. So while they hiding in the caves, Joshua found out, he said, roll that big old rock in front of it. Put some men right there to guard and make sure they don't come out. So Joshua had to go finish taking care of being defeated to fight the rest of his men. So in the meantime, he gonna find out what he gonna do with them. So he locked them in a cave. So we see that Joshua had closed them in to see what he gonna do with them next. But don't stop. God said, don't stop pursuing your enemy. So attack them from the rear and don't let them reach their city. So God said, get them before they go to this city. Because God said, don't stop pursuing them. Because you can't let no one live. Because when you let them live, down the line, they're going to come and try to attack you again. So, but don't stop pursuing them, from the rear. Don't let them get to their city. For the Lord your God had given them into your hands. So God going to get them into their hands. The ones that trying to run back to their city. So the 5 kings ordered to attack Gilon. So that's why God has said, don't stop pursuing your enemy. Because they will still come after you once you allow them to be saved. So because, if Joshua let them go, down the line, they will come after them again. People just like Pharaoh, they can cry and plead, and then you save the next thing you know, they start in trouble again. So they have to attack, they have to attack them and not let them go to their city. God said, don't let them go to their city. So God had given them into their hands. So Joshua and the Israelites, they're defeated completely. Again, so they're on the ball. God is instructing them, giving them instruction and God on their side, tell them how you're going to do this and do that. And God said, I'm going to be ahead of you. I'm going to always give them to you. So Joshua and the Israelites, they completely, defeat them completely. But few survived. Still, they just had a whole lot of, he just had a whole lot of army. Every time they defeat them, they still have some more. So they defeated completely, but a few survivors, had managed to reach their city. So the whole army didn't return safely to Joshua. Because remember, God said, I'm going to bring them to you. No matter if they try to run to their city, I'm going to bring it to you. So the whole army had returned safely to Joshua at the camp, and no one uttered a word against the Israelites. They were so scared. They see how they're defeating everybody. So God then had got them, and so now they're among the Israelites, and they're scared to speak a word. So now the whole army, in the hands of Joshua, none like, just like God said, I'm going to bring them. I'm going to deliver them into your hands. And God did just that. So now they're scared to say any word about the Israelites. So now, remember, the 5 kings are still closed up in the cave. Remember that Joshua put that big old brick in front of them because Joshua had to still go fight the rest of his army. So now he said, while Joshua was taking care of his army, Joshua said, open the mouth of the cage and bring those 5 kings out. So now Joshua's ready to deal with them. So remember, they was the one started this round. They didn't want Joshua and the Israelites. They wanted Galilee. But to get to him, you had to get through the whole nation. So when they brought out the 5 kings, Joshua put the kings to death and exposed their bodies. The 5 kings, put the 5 kings on the poles. Remember he did that to Ai. And they was left hanging on the pole until evening. Same thing he did to Ai. He killed them, put them on a post, left them there till evening, and then he took the body. So in the incest world, when a powerful enemy, was defeated, the victorious people publicly humiliate them, by putting the kings on falling, putting the kings to death and expose their bodies. So these kings and leaders will no longer be a threat to no one else. And that's the whole plan, because if they would just let them live, they would have just tried them again. So when they put them to death, they exposed their body, hung them on the post until evening, and then the king's leaders, there was no more threat. There would be no more threat to no one. So now the 5 kings hanging till evening. At sunset, and Joshua had given the order, and they took them down from the pole, threw them into the cave. Now remember, Joshua found them in a cage. So now Joshua had killed the 5 kings. Exposed their body, hung them on a pole. That's what they do when they kill someone, kill a king, a leader. When they kill a leader, they expose their body. So Joshua found them in a cage. So now Joshua had killed them, and now he about to put all 5 of the kings' dead bodies back into that cave where they was hiding at. So where they had been hiding at. So at the mouth of the cave, they placed a large rock, which are there today. They say it's still there. That means the kings were still in that cave. The body was in there. They put that rock in there, and they left it there. So now these 5 kings was hiding in a cave. So when Joshua put them to death and placed them on a pole till evening, Joshua had them to pull down, and put them back in the caves where they was hiding. No one could not stand against Joshua, just like God said. They were not nice. They came against a man, Galion. They wanted to kill him, but they had to get through Joshua and the Israelite. And so Joshua just found out that the man deceived them, give him a position in wood cutting and carrying the water, and put a curse on him. And then next thing he calling out to Joshua for help. So a man that's walking with God, a leader. If you're a leader and you're walking with God, and somebody deceived you, did you wrong, and then they call you out for help, will you go and help that person? If you walking with God. Joshua walking with God. So Joshua did the right thing. Joshua could have held a grudge and everything, and it would not go. But we see he was willing to go, took the army, and called out to God, and they defeat this whole army, saving him. Even had the sun to stand still right over Galion to protect him. So Joshua did all that for him and did not bring up. When he called out for help, Joshua didn't bring up, well, you did the seed, wasn't Joshua didn't do none of that. Joshua quickly got everything he needed to go fight for battle. And then he got a mighty God, good in fighting battle. A mighty God that's in battle. They're always going to go ahead of you. I'm going to deliver your enemies to you. And God did just that. God had told Joshua, no one will be able to stand against you. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Don't be discouraged. You're going to go out there. I'm going to deliver them to you, and then you're going to attack them. So that's all the word I have for you on today. We just talk about the 5 kings that started the battle, and then hid themselves in the cave, and Joshua had killed them and placed them back in the cave. So we also talk about the sun stand still. We see that Joshua had needed more time, more light to kill the Ammonites. That came against not them and the Israelites, but came against Galilee. So they were fighting a war that wasn't even their war. But the leader that Joshua is. He took charge and did what was right, and he made the right decision to help someone. He forgave him, But if someone, so Joshua did the right thing. He forgave him from deceiving him. So when the man called out for help, he didn't waste no time. He went in defeat. Helped him fight his battle. Once it was his battle, it was Joshua and the Israelite battle because he was on their property. So we still saw way back with Lot. When the two men came to his house, he protected the men. He protected them so much that he was willing to send his daughters out there. So that's all the word I have for you today. And we all have to look at when we walking with God, you know, you have to, I know I'm in a process, forgiving, it's not easy, especially depending on what you went through, but you're walking with God, that's what you have to do. Joshua had made the right decision. He didn't complain, he didn't brought it up, he just went and tried to help someone, and he ain't brought up the past, he just went and helped someone. And they defeated. God said no one would be able to stand against you, and they couldn't. So that's all the word I have for you today. And y'all have a blessed night, and I'll see y'all on the next video.